funds next week?
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So we're now, last week we started talking about the purifying of the najasa. So inshallah we'll continue with that. So the author says purifying the skin of dead animals. He says tanning purifies the skin and fur of a dead animal. And he mentions...
Did we find the ground?
Yeah.
We actually moved on after that too.
It purifies the fur or the skin and the fur of the dead animal. And then he mentions the hadith إذا دبغ الإهاب فقد طهر. And then he says this is based on the hadith of Ibn Abbas, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, if the animal's skin is tanned, it is purified. And he says related by Bukhari and Muslim. So that's the hadith that he mentions. And he mentions the fur. Allahu Alam why he mentioned the fur, except unless he's talking about the fact that the skin is attached to the fur. But the fur, like we talked about before, the hair in and of itself is considered Tâhir, whether it's from a dead animal or from an animal that's been slaughtered the correct way. So this is what the author mentioned, and we'll just go into a little bit about the purifying of the skins, just because it's an issue that, even though we don't deal with it a lot, it's people ask about it a lot. So even if most people will, the leather that they'll use will be from a cow, and it'll be tanned already. It comes up a lot. People asking about what about this and what about this. So inshallah we'll talk a bit about that. So there's a number of opinions on the topic of what is purified from tanning. So the first opinion is that nothing's purified. So any kind of animal, whether it's a pig or a cow or a goat or a sheep, or if it's a hunting animal, regardless of what the animal is, that the skin of it would never be purified if it was slaughtered or if it wasn't slaughtered, or if it was slaughtered incorrectly. So the only time it would be pure and permissible to use would be if it was slaughtered correctly. And that's the opinion of Imam Mâlik, and it's the main Hanbalî opinion. So they say any animal, regardless, if it wasn't slaughtered correctly, then the skin is unusable. And the evidence that they use is the verse that we talked about many times before, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ, or the mayta, or the animals that are dead or aren't slaughtered correctly, are forbidden upon you. Also they mention hadith narrated by Imam at-Tirmidhi from Abdullâh bin Ukaym, that he said, أتانا كتاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن لا تنتفعوا من الميتة بإهاب ولا عصب. Or from Abdullâh bin Ukaym, in which he said, the letter from the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم came to us, in which it stated, do not benefit from the ihab, which is the skin, or the asab, which is the nerves, the nerves of a dead animal. And that's narrated by Imam at-Tirmidhi.
Did they say anything about mat animals? Because
the which?
The mayit animals.
Mayit?
Yeah.
They say they're all, any mayit is impermissible.
Impermissible.
Yeah.
And
the ones that are slaughtered correctly are fine.
Okay then.
Yeah. So they mentioned these two verses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid the mayta, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that to not benefit from the ihab of an animal that was dead.
Sorry, you said that they don't have a problem if the animal wasn't slaughtered properly, but only if it's dead? Is that
Right. So if it just found dead, if it's slaughtered by a Majusi or a Rafidhi or a Murtad or something, they wouldn't accept it, and it would be unusable. So even if you tanned it at that point, you wouldn't be allowed to use it.
Okay, so if it's not halal, then you're not allowed to use it.
Right.
Rafida, they don't even do dhabh the way we do?
No, even if they do, it doesn't matter. Like we'll get into that, but means the one who's upon their deen, who does their shirk and stuff, like it wouldn't matter, yeah. So they'd fall in the same as other religions. So that's the first opinion. The second opinion is that everything is purified except for the pig and the human. So why Allahu Alam why they mention the human, but we'll talk about it in detail anyway. This is the opinion of the Ahnâf. So they say any dead skin would be purified except if it was from a pig or from a human.
If the animal's dead, to purify it, you tan it.
Right.
And if it's not dead, if it's slaughtered properly,
you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to tan anything.
You don't have to do anything.
The skin's tahir.
The skin's tahir, yeah.
So you could wear it with the blood on it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You wouldn't, but I'm saying, it's
technically it's tahir, yeah.
Sheikh, what did the Hanbalî say about the khanzir?
Well, the Hanbalî, they don't even take even the animal that's permissible to eat. If it wasn't slaughtered, they don't allow it. So the pig's more. The Hanbalî, the main opinion of the Hanâbilah, they don't take the pig. The pig can't be tahir.
The second hadith that you mentioned, which was by Tirmidhi,
yeah,
it was narrated by, you said,
Abdullâh bin Ukaym.
Abdullâh bin Ukaym.
Anyway, Allahu Alam, the stronger opinion for that hadith is that it's weak anyway.
Which hadith? This hadith?
The letter from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But even the ones who accept it, some of them say, what is it? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbid using the ihab. So what's the ihab? The ihab is the skin before it's tanned, because once it's tanned, it's no longer called an ihab. So Allahu Alam how strong that opinion is. But so they say, some of them even who accept the hadith, they say it doesn't apply because if it's tanned, it's no longer an ihab. So the Prophet ﷺ forbid using an ihab, which is the untanned skin of something that's dead. So if you tan it, it doesn't even fall under this hadith. Allahu Alam. But anyway, the hadith is, the stronger opinion is that it's weak anyway. So and then the second opinion, like we said, is that you can use or you can purify the skin of any animal except for the pig and the human. So this is the opinion of the Ahnâf. For the pig, what they use is, like we talked about before, is that in and of itself, the animal is considered najas. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, or He mentioned what you can't eat, and then He mentioned some of it was the lahm al-khanzir, فَإِنَّهُ رِجِسٌ. So, and we talked about this before earlier. So what they say is that the animal in and of itself is considered najas. So if it's dead and then you clean it from being dead, it's still the best it would be is that it goes back to the way it was when it's alive, and it's najas when it's alive too. So you can't, tanning the skin is not going to make it better than it was when it's alive. So that's the argument that they use. For the human, they say either the human, and again, like who would use it, I don't know, but they say if it's a Muslim, it's not allowed to use because the Prophet ﷺ forbid desecrating a body, plus it takes away from the respect that we would have to the Muslim body. And for the kafir, they say that the Prophet ﷺ forbid al-muthla, or which is desecrating a dead body or using it as an example. So the Prophet ﷺ forbid doing anything like that to the disbeliever's body. So how could you then take it and skin it and use it for whatever you'd use it for? So they say that these are the two things that would be forbidden. The third opinion is that everything is purified except for dogs and pigs. And this is the opinion of the Shâfi'îyyah. And Imam An-Nawawî mentioned that it's the opinion of Ali ibn Abi Tâlib and Abdullâh bin Mas'ud and others. And they mention the same evidence for the pig, which the Ahnâf take, that it's rijis. So they say if it's dead, it's the best that you're going to do is bring it back to the state that it was when it was alive, and it's still najas. And for the dog, they make qiyas. So they say, just like the Prophet ﷺ said that you have to, and we went over this last week about the washing of the dog. So if the dog licks something, according to the Shâfi'îyyah, you have to wash it 7 times no matter what it touched, and that it's considered najas. So they say because it's like this, it's najas while it's alive, then it's similar to the pig, and then the pig would be the same thing. So they make that qiyas. The third opinion is that everything is purified. Doesn't matter if it's a dog or a pig, if it's wild, if it's a hunting animal. It doesn't matter what the animal is, and that's the opinion of the Thâhiriyyah. So Ibn Hazm,
Fourth opinion, right?
The fourth opinion, yeah.
fourth, yeah. What they mention is they mention a number of ahadith. The first one is that from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا دُبِغَ الْإِهَابِ فَقَدْ طُهِرْ, or that the Prophet ﷺ said, if the skin is tanned, then it becomes purified. And that's narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So they say, here the Prophet ﷺ didn't specify any certain animals that it only works for, or he didn't make an exception to any animals that it doesn't work for. So he didn't say that that it applies to everything except for pigs, or it applies to everything except for dogs, or anything else. So
everything's Tâhir, they say.
So they use the hadith in general. So they say this hadith is general; it doesn't make any exceptions. So we stick to the generality of the hadith.
And I'm sorry, this is by who?
Thâhiriyyah. They also mention another hadith which is similar to this, and it's also from Abdullâh bin Abbas, that the Prophet ﷺ said, أَيُّمَا إِهَابٍ دُبِغْ فَقَدْ طُهِرْ, or that any hide or any skin that has been tanned is purified. So the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith said any. So they say this is even stronger than the other one, because the first one he just said if the skin is tanned, it's purified, and this one he said any skin that is tanned, it is purified.
In Arabic it's أيهما.
أيما. So they say that this is even more general, and that this hadith is narrated by Ahmad and At-Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i and others. And some of the ulama accept this hadith, and some of them say that it's munkar, because the stronger narration from Al-Bukhari and Muslim just says إِذَا دُبِغَ الْإِهَابِ. This one says أَيُّمَا إِهَابٍ دُبِغ. So they say that this was a mistake from the narrators. So Allahu A'lam, which is the strongest? It seems like the stronger opinion would be that this one is a munkar narration, but Allahu A'lam. And then they also mention a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, طُهُورُ كُلِّ أَدِيمٍ دِبَاغُهُ, which is from Aisha radiallahu anha, that the Prophet ﷺ said, the purification of every hide is tanning it. And that's narrated by Ad-Daraqutni and others. And then they use a number of very weak narrations which speak about this as well.
No, is that authentic or no?
Allahu A'lam. Yeah.
Haytham, when you said the Shafi'i opinion of, they said that the dog and the pig,
Yeah.
their skin is najis no matter what,
Right.
even if you tan it.
Right.
And they said this is Ali ibn Abi Tâlib's opinion and Ibn Abbas's opinion, صح?
Ibn Mas'ud.
Ibn Mas'ud.
Yeah.
But where's according to what hadith?
Allahu A'lam, I didn't find it myself. So I don't know if it's something that, sometimes in the books of fiqh they'll mention certain ahadith, but you won't find it in the books of ahadith.
Okay.
So Allahu A'lam,
Because that goes against the whole thing with the dog in the first place, because the dog licked the utensil, not
Right.
a person or whatever.
Right.
And it wasn't even najis, it was Tâhir.
Right.
And washing it was ibadah.
Right.
But the hair of the kalb in the book they mentioned it's Tâhir. So never mind the skin. Wouldn't the hair be حق being like najis or
No, the skin would, because it's attached to the body, right? The blood flows through it, and
so because the blood it's najis.
right.
Not because like some outside najis.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Another opinion is that if the animal is something that would be halal for you to eat by slaughtering it, then it would become purified. So meaning that if it was an animal that was dead, but if you slaughtered it, it would have been allowed for you, then it would be purified. So for example, cows or sheep or something like that, if it's slaughtered correctly, we'd be allowed to eat it. So they say that, according to this opinion, that if the animal dies incorrectly, then it becomes najis at that point. Or if it's slaughtered incorrectly, it's najis at that point. But if you tan it, then it would become Tâhir just as if you had slaughtered it. But if it's an animal that's not allowed for you to eat to begin with, like a wolf or a bear or something like that, then regardless of what you do to the skin, then it wouldn't be allowed. And that's another narration from Imam Mâlik and Abû Thawr. And Abû Thawr was, we talked about before, was from the companions of Imam Ash-Shâfi'î. And also some of the Hanbalîs take this opinion.
Hanbalîs and who else?
Hanbalîs, one narration from Imam Mâlik and Abû Thawr. And they mention a hadith narrated by An-Nasâ'i that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Dibaghuhu zakatuhu," or its tanning is its slaughter. So what they understand from this is that since it wasn't slaughtered, if it was slaughtered, it would have been allowed. It wasn't slaughtered, it's not allowed. By tanning it, it's as if you slaughtered it. So they understand that from this hadith, slaughter. Because if we slaughtered it, it would have been acceptable. It's not acceptable now because it's dead. Tanning it is as if we slaughtered it.
Correctly.
Right.
And that's a hadith reported by Nisa'i.
An-Nasa'i, yeah. Allahu alam its authenticity, but yeah, that's what they use. And then they also mention the hadith which we talked about a little bit before. I don't know if it was in these lessons or just in general. From Usama ibn Umair, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن جلود النمار, or نهى عن جلود السباع. And that's from that the Prophet ﷺ forbid the skins of the hunting animals.
So is it Sibah or Numur?
Some say some of them say numur and some siba'.
Some narrations?
So different hadith, yeah, different narrations.
Both ways are authentic?
Well, I asked Shaykh Sulaiman about the nimar or about the nimr, and he said it's jayyid. About that the narration.
Yeah. What about Sibah?
Siba', yani it's Allahu alam if it's authentic on its own or if it's authentic with bishawahid or not. Yeah, so the point here for this is that they say since the Prophet ﷺ forbid the julud of the siba', which is the hunting animals, then it's not allowed. It's not allowed for us to use them. And some of the narrations mention the wearing of it. So the ulama, some of them who accept the hadith say the hadith just mention wearing it. So putting it, on your on your ground, to use for a carpet, or putting it on your wall as a decoration, or putting it, if you had a horse, putting it as on top of the saddle. Those types of things would be allowed. And some, yeah. So Allahu alam. We can go into that if we get to the, talking about hunting and stuff. And the last opinion is that any animal that's Tâhir while it's alive, it would be allowed, and if it's Najas while it's alive, then it wouldn't be allowed. So based upon what we've learned earlier in these lessons, what are the animals that are Najas while they're alive? Khanzir, what else?
Donkey.
No.
Sorry. That's
Nothing.
Nothing, right?
Nothing, yeah.
Right. So Allah alam, according to the strongest, while it's alive, the only things that are Najas is the pig. So according to this opinion, then everything would be allowed except for the pig.
and Jalala.
No.
Well, even Allah alam, even the Jalala, he talked about that Allah alam, the strongest opinion is that it's actually still Tâhir, but it's forbidden to eat when it's in that state.
Or right.
Or ride, right. Or take the milk from as well. Some of the hadith mention the milk.
The bears are not najis and fall.
Yeah, Allah, they're not najas, yeah.
So just
They're forbidden to eat, but
Not
the
because
evidence,
of-
there's no evidence that they're najas. There's no strong evidence that they're najas.
So Haytham, you can't wear like lions and bears and things like that.
go hunt
Well,
the lion.
Some say you're allowed to.
Bare hand.
Because if you let's say whatever you tan it, so it becomes Tâhir.
Well, we'll talk. Just now which is the strongest out of this. But anyway, this is the opinion, or one narration from Imam Ahmad, and some of the Hanâbilah chose this, which is the last opinion, that if it's Tâhir while it's alive, it's permissible to tan the hide. So just a question, what's the difference between this opinion when we say if it's Tâhir while it's alive, then it's allowed, and if it's Najas while it's alive, it's not allowed? What's the difference between that opinion and the opinion when we say if it's allowed to eat, then we can tan it, and if it's not allowed to eat, then we can't tan it?
Well, just because it's halal to eat, not halal, doesn't mean it's najis, right?
So what would be an example of if according to that opinion?
Like donkeys.
No, it's the same thing.
No,
Okay.
it's
It's
not.
the same thing.
No, it's not.
Not allowed to eat. It's not
najis.
No,
Like donkeys, they're not
a
najis. We
dog
can't
you
eat them.
can
You can't eat the hunting
Yeah,
animals, but
yeah.
they're not najis.
Right, so some things are forbidden to eat, but that has nothing to do with the najasa, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So according to one opinion, they'd be forbidden because it has to do with whether you can eat them or not. According to this last opinion, it has to do with whether they're Tâhir while they're alive or not. So
So
according,
they're Tâhir, so I mean, why wouldn't you use the skin? Like let's say the donkeys.
yeah. Well, the donkeys, yeah, I mean you could use it, right? Because it's Tâhir while it's
Yeah, but
alive.
say if you can eat it. Oh, if it's
That's
Tâhir.
yeah.
Oh,
So that's and then so that's those are the opinions on the topic.
It's a bit more
So
complicated when it comes to a lion because the hadith, عن السباع الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن جلود السباع
yeah,
or النمور, so it becomes a bit more the analogy is like a bit more complicated,
Right.
because if you want to take that opinion and we know نهى عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن جلود النمور and we agreed that hadith جيد,
Yeah,
so
but
you-
it's not
you
najis.
can't-
Doesn't mean it's najis.
but then if naha anha though, right? So
nahi, I mean to use it,
so
to sit
then
on it, to wear it.
so what are you
Yeah,
going to
that's
do
what
with it
we're
then?
talking
But
If-
but
so
you
it
can
would
use something
become-
else. You can use. I mean, let's say okay, the siba.
Yeah.
That doesn't include the dogs. That doesn't include the
What do you mean doesn't include dogs?
from the dogs from the siba. Let's say what else not from the siba?
I
The
don't know.
najis.
What's
Oh,
a siba?
they consider it najis.
A hunting animal عنده claws وعنده هاي teeth like
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hmm. So from all this, I know it's there's lots of opinions. So what stood out for you that doesn't make any sense first? To narrow it down.
narrow it down.
Nothing is purified.
Yeah.
So the one that nothing's purified, the first one, yeah.
Well, first of all, the hadith that you said they use is that hadith when I can't remember who it was, but the Prophet ﷺ said, why don't you make use of the skin?
Yeah,
Right.
That's one of the ones.
Yeah.
Where'd that hadith go?
The mayat.
Yeah, but the
No,
That's
none of them use
one of
them.
the evidences that we use with this
Yeah, exactly,
opinions, right?
because we can say we can use that
It's a
hadith.
mayta.
It's a meta, but it was
It's
a,
used.
Exactly.
use
You
of
can
its
use that
skin.
hadith with the opinion that if it dies incorrectly, you're still allowed to use the skin. So we can make qiyas. You know what I mean?
well, no, I
If
mean
you
because they'll
tan it,
say
if you tan it,
if you
طبعاً.
tan it, right?
It's a dalil for that.
It's a delil for
Using even the dead animals. The
Yeah,
mayta.
but I mean we can use it for other animals.
of course. No, of course it's a delil for the dead animal, but does that include? Because the thing. What was the animal in that hadith? It was a shah, right? Like so, it was a sheep or a goat.
Yeah, it wasn't fangs.
So if someone says, well, this was an animal you can eat,
Yeah, exactly.
animals you can't eat, you can't use this hadith for.
Exactly. So that's
Other ones will say, oh no, this was Tâhir.
But it's not tahir because it's a mayta.
No, but the animal when it's alive, how did it become najas?
the way it died.
We're done.
The way it died.
Yeah, then it's najis.
So when you clean it, when you tan it though,
Mm.
it gets rid of that najasa.
Yeah, I guess
It takes it back to how it was while it was alive.
Yeah, it goes back if you consider the sibat najis or not najis.
Right,
It goes
right.
back to that. So if you don't consider it najis, then you still can tan it, just
Right.
like the sheep you can tan it.
Right.
So I think opinion 1 and 2 we take them out.
In the opinion of that some of the Mâlikiyya and Abû Thawr that he said it's allowed to eat the animal, you're allowed to use the skin.
Mhm.
We have the hadith of Ibn Abbas for the تبيغ الإهاب فقط طهر.
Yeah.
Specify which animal.
Hmm.
So I think we can
So would you include pig?
no.
No.
Some of it.
How about dog?
Siba?
Allahu alam, siba'i, and it doesn't matter. I mean, we talked about before that they're tahir while they're alive, right?
And
No, but
So-
then we are not allowed to eat shiba.
We're not allowed to eat them though, but if someone said we're not allowed to eat them, why? Because they're forbidden to eat. Nothing to do with their being najas, right?
Well,
So if someone made that argument, then we could say that when, so we didn't slaughter it, but when when we tan the hide of it, it becomes permissible to use, or it becomes Tâhir. Then there's the issue, can we use it for anything though? But that's a separate issue about whether it's pure or not.
They're
Which way you
definitely
brought
not
up.
najis.
but
Definitely they're tahir, but then the hadith clearly says you can't wear their skin.
Right.
And the other hadith
But that's a
saying
different issue. That's what he's saying.
no, but the other hadith saying that you can wear their skin is based on a sheep.
Exactly. Or that you
So-
can use the skin, right?
So it's pretty clear. No, you can't wear the skin of predators,
Right.
but doesn't mean they're najis.
Right.
But you can wear the skin of like sheep and whatever animals you can eat that are not predators
Right.
if you tan it.
Right. So animals that aren't predators,
100% you could use their skin if you tan it if they died.
exactly.
The other one,
The issue
it's
now
leaning
is
more towards that you can't wear them. if
you
they
can't
are
wear them.
predators.
Maybe. I mean, we'll get into that. About the using of them, but whether they're tahir or not, to me myself,
They are tahir.
they're tahir if
Yeah.
you tan them.
They are for sure.
And
Because
even
there's
so
a
for
hadith
myself,
of-
for the dog, Allahu Alam, I see it the same thing.
But there's more than one because there's a hadith of the dog licking that utensil. You know what I mean? There's also the hadith of what's it called? Those animals peeing in that river.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sorry, the swamp.
Right,
And they were drinking from it.
right.
And I think those are the only two I remember about.
but when نهينا عن الجلد, but it doesn't say what to do with the juld. It's just نهي نهى الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم عن جلد. So
Yeah.
if we were told to stay away from it, and, to abstain from it, doesn't matter what we're using it for. I would say
نهي عن
This hadith, some hadith just say it in general.
Oh.
Some say al-julus alayha, and some say as-siba, and some say the numur.
They're all
okay,
authentic.
if you want to say
Allahu Alam, I
numur,
mean they're acceptable. How authentic they are, Allahu
Shaykh,
Alam.
if you want to use النمور, does he mean literally from من المفرد نمر?
Yeah,
يقول
yeah.
إلى النمر وحده.
Yeah, yeah.
فإذا هذا هو الحديث والحديث جيد فلا ينطبق على you can say لا ينطبق على الأسد.
But what about the one that says as-siba?
But you said السباع, the authenticity is unknown.
But let's say it's authentic though.
If it's authentic, we take it. But if we don't know, I would take the جيد over the unknown.
Yeah.
So I would say النمور, it's in general sitting using, it's not
So it's
good.
specific for the numur,
Yeah,
basically.
عليك, it's specific. But for سباع, we don't even know the authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
طب هيثم يعني it's هلا using okay that's a different subject like their skin. But some as animals they have to be tahir because the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use a dog for hunting.
Well, he didn't use the
Or
Sahaba
sorry,
did,
the
yeah.
Sahaba used a dog for hunting, and a dog has fangs and
Yeah,
claws,
yeah,
and he used to dig its teeth into the animal,
Yeah.
and they used to eat that animal.
right.
So
Allahu Alam, if we look at all of these opinions and we look at all of the evidence that each one used, to me, and you might disagree, I find strongest is the Ahnâf opinion, the first one. So that everything would be Tâhir except for the pig, and then the human. I disregard the human issue for a number of reasons. First of all, because when a human's dead, is it najis or Tâhir?
depending.
it's the second
Tâhir.
They're mu'mineen,
It's Tâhir. Wallahu Alam, I mean, to me the stronger opinion is that they're all Tâhir when they're dead. So
if it's a kafir?
even if it's a kafir, yeah. So, but I mean, so it would be Tâhir, but we wouldn't use it. I mean, we can't use it.
Doesn't it say that the kuffar are najis?
Yeah. But we went over that, like,
Long time ago.
yeah.
Many times.
But, so then if you say you take that opinion, but then you just exclude the human opinion, aren't you taking the last one we just talked about, only the animals that are tahir when alive?
Essentially, except for, depending, one of the problems is
What you consider tahir when it's alive?
exactly. So the Ahnâf or some of the Hanâbilah took this opinion. They look at things as being different with what's najis or
I
not.
want to see. What's your opinion on Siba? يعني okay, خلاص
For whether they're Tâhir or not, I believe they're Tâhir while they're alive. And if you purify their jild, it's allowed to you. It's Tâhir. If you tan it, the issue is can you use it or not. Allahu Alam. I mean,
that's where we're stuck.
myself, would need more research and more reading or whatever. But what I kind of see that it would be, for now, I would stick to that it has to do with the tigers, specific. Myself. So that's the end of the discussion about purifying the skins. So next, the author mentions, he says, purifying mirrors and similar objects. So he says mirrors, knives, swords, nails, bones, glass, painted pots, and other smooth surfaces that have no pores are purified by simply wiping them and removing any impure remains. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to pray while wearing swords that were smeared with blood, and they used to just wipe the swords to purify them. So this is all he mentions on the topic. But
isn't the blood?
The blood was Tâhir.
The blood's Tâhir, so that's an issue now. If we say that it's Tâhir, then that whole argument falls apart, right?
It becomes an issue, because some people say it's Tâhir while they're on the battlefield. That when you leave the battlefield, the dam is something else.
Well, no, they'll say that it's
no, some people they
not
use
that
the
it's
hadith with the shuhada were buried in their blood.
Oh,
they say as a karama in them because they're in the battle, مش عارف شو.
But what's going to be on the Muslim sword though?
Their blood was on
Their own blood?
Okay. Yeah,
right, so it's not. So that's if we use that as evidence, then the whole argument falls apart, because I think most of us accepted that the blood was Tâhir, except you.
Why did you?
So, but the issue then, if we look into this issue more, what's the reason or what's the discussion actually about? The discussion is about
the object itself, or what?
No, the discussion is about, does something become Tâhir only with water, or can it be removed some other way? So if you had a najasa on something, could you wipe it off? If you wipe it till nothing's left, is it Tâhir now? Or do you have to use water? Because the reason why they say this is because if you have a mirror, it's not going to soak anything in, right?
Yeah.
You're going to wipe it, it's all going to be gone. A sword, same thing, because it's metal.
Yeah.
Clothes, obviously, you wouldn't be able to wipe everything off. It's going to soak in. So that's what it comes down to. So we'll...
Oh yeah, that's basically anything that has a smooth surface.
So it's never going to soak in.
Yeah.
It's only going to stay on the surface. So if you wipe it, so we'll talk now about the issue of to purify something. Does it need water, or can it be done with anything that gets rid of it? Because that's the actual discussion in this topic. So we'll talk, or in this subsection. So we'll talk about that now. The first opinion is that it's purified. So meaning, as long as the najasa is taken away, it doesn't matter how it's taken away. If it's taken away with water, with by drying, like we talked about before, if it's taken away by rubbing it with dirt, if it's used with some other liquid, if like a soap liquid, or like what do you call it, like a cleanser, whatever takes the najasa away, so that it's no longer on this surface, it becomes Tâhir. That's the opinion of the Ahnâf.
So you don't have to use water.
According to them, yeah. So as long as you get rid of it, it doesn't matter how you got rid of it. So the first thing that they use is what the author mentioned about the blood. But the issue then comes, for most of you, that you held that it's Tâhir. So then, is there another evidence? Because we'll have to look to another evidence. What they argue is that they say that when we wash it with water, what are we trying to do?
Clean.
How do we know if it's clean? Or when do we judge that it's clean?
From the taste, the smell, and the color.
So if you can't taste it, smell it, or see it, what do we say?
It's gone.
It's gone, exactly. So the point of it, what we're trying to do is get rid of it.
Yeah.
So they say, if that's what we take, then what does it matter if it's with water or not? If it's gone, it's gone. Whether you got it away from rubbing it, or if you put, So
these are the Ahnâf.
This is the Ahnâf. So they say, as long as it's gone, then really, whether we did it with water or not, then what's stopping us from saying that it's najas?
Only the Ahnâf take that opinion?
Only the Ahnâf, yeah. So
It's no matter how you take
that it doesn't matter what it is, yeah.
So you can't smell it, see it, or taste it.
Right. So if you say, let's just stick with the example of mirror. If you wiped it, I mean, you looked at it, you could clearly see the najasa. You wipe it till you can't see it anymore. Then they say, oh, it's Tâhir now. Because there's no, again, like we talked about the rule, the only way, how did we know there was a najasa on there?
I remember.
We saw it. If we don't see it anymore, then what are we judging that it's there anymore? Exactly. And then they also mention a hadith from Abdurrahman ibn Yazid, from Salman al-Farisi, radiallahu anhu, أنه قيل له قد علمكم نبيكم صلى الله عليه وسلم كل شيء حتى القراءة قال فقال أجل قال نهانا أن نستقبل القبلة لغائط أو بول أو أن نستنجي باليمين أو أن نستنجي بأقل من 3 أحجار أو أن نستنجي برجيع أو عظم. Or from Yazid, from Abdurrahman ibn Yazid, from Salman, that he was asked, or it was said to him, your Prophet ﷺ has taught you everything, even about excrement, or even how to clean your, or what to do when you're relieving yourself. So he said, of course, he forbade us from facing the Qibla while urinating or defecating, or urinating. That he forbid us also that we cleanse ourselves from relieving ourselves with our right hand, and that we cleanse ourselves from relieving ourselves with less than 3 rocks, and that we cleanse ourselves from relieving ourselves with dung or bone. And that's narrated by Imam Muslim. So what's the evidence for this, or in this hadith, for the Ahnâf?
I don't see evidence.
So if nahana or he forbid us from using less than 3 rocks. If you clean yourself with
Oh.
A rock is not using
Yeah,
water.
and you can
If it's
get rid
gone
of
with the rock,
with
yeah.
something
then what's
solid.
with something solid?
Yeah.
Exactly. The Prophet ﷺ didn't specify that you have to use water. So they say here, the Prophet ﷺ said, or he taught them everything. Salman didn't mention anything about water. He only mentioned using the rocks.
Stones, yeah.
So they use this as evidence.
So Kleenex, would that apply to just,
Yeah.
paper towel?
Yeah.
But if you have water,
Even if you don't have water, even if you have water,
you can use either one.
yeah, you have to at least use the Kleenex.
That's right.
So they use this hadith. They also use a hadith from Abû Hurairah radiallahu anhu. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا وطئ أحدكم بنعله الأذى فإن التراب له طهور. Or from Abû Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, if one of you steps in some filth, then dirt is a purification for it.
He didn't use the water.
Okay.
He didn't use the water.
Exactly, yeah, he didn't use water. So if you step in something that's najas, then the Prophet ﷺ just mentioned that the dirt or the soil is a way to purify it.
What if you use water?
I mean, the point of it is that it's gone, right? You wipe it until
so
it's
the point
gone.
of the hadith, it's gone. Does it have to be turab?
Does it have to be mine? Nah.
Or turab?
Like, what if you use the rock instead of like sand?
Oh,
That's the point.
Yeah, I guess.
That's-
I mean,
that's-
you use anything, but get rid of it.
Right. So yeah.
So إذا وطأ أحدكم في
بنعله الأذى فإن التراب له طهور. And that's narrated by Abu Dawud. And then they also mention another hadith that's very similar, or in another narration, إذا وطئ الأذى بخفيه فطهورهما التراب. Or that if one of you steps in some filth with his shoes, then the dirt is a purification for them. And then the last hadith for this opinion is from Abu Sa'id radiallahu anhu, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى فخلع نعله فخلع الناس نعالهم فلما انصرف قال لما خلعتم نعالكم قالوا رأيناك خلعت فخلعنا فقال إن جبريل أتاني فأخبرني أن بهما أذى أو خبثا فإذا جاء أحدكم المسجد فليقلب نعليه ولينظر فيهما فإن رأى خبثا فليمسحه بالأرض ثم ليصلي فيهما. Or from Abu Sa'id that the Prophet ﷺ was praying and he took off his shoes. So the people took off their shoes. Then when the Prophet ﷺ finished praying, he said, "Why did you take off your shoes?" So they said, "We saw you take off your shoes, so we took off our shoes." So he said, Jibreel came to me and informed me that I had some najasa on my shoes. So if any of you comes to the masjid, then let him flip his shoes over, and if he sees any najasa on them, then let him wipe them upon the ground and then pray in them. And that's narrated by Abu Dawood, and it's at least Hasan. So this hadith, there's many benefits in this hadith. One of them is that wiping them on the ground is something that purifies the shoes, and that also that it's not required to wash the shoes with water to purify them. Another benefit from this hadith is that it's the permissibility of praying in shoes. So many people have this idea that you can't pray, you're not allowed to pray while wearing your shoes. In this hadith we can obviously see that it's permissible. Also that it's permissible to wear shoes in the masjid, because that's another idea that you're not allowed to wear shoes in the masjid. And we're not talking about here wearing it on carpet where it's going to wreck the wealth of the Muslimin, but we're talking about in and of itself, is it allowed to wear shoes in the masjid? Some people have an idea that you can't, you have to take them off at the door. From this hadith we clearly see that it's permissible to wear. Whether it's going to wreck the masjid, that's a separate topic, but in and of itself it's allowed to wear them in the masjid. Another benefit from this hadith is we see that if you start your salat and you assume that you're fulfilling all of the conditions or all of the wajibat, and then you realize during the salat that something was wrong, or that you had najasa on your clothing, that it doesn't nullify your salat. You just do what you can at that point to remove the najasa or to take off that piece of clothing. So inshallah we'll stop there. We'll finish the rest of the discussion on washing on purifying with water or not. So yeah.
Okay.
Allahu a'lam.